welcome everybody to our Inside Esports Zoom special here on CSIDolphins.com and of course on CSI Sportsnet and the ECC network. This is a second installment for us where today we learn all about the video game Valorant as the CSI Dolphins are getting set to start their official competitive season in esports and in the game of Valorant. Similar to last week, we have a cross-section of panelists who know all about the game and who are going to clue us in on what we need to know. And we want to introduce them at this time. In the box on the upper left, of course, is Alberto Sanchez. Alberto is an assistant athletic director at CSI and is also the Esports Coordinator. Right below me is Sal Caruso. He's the Intramurals Coordinator. Of course, the birth of the Gamers Club was adopted by Intramurals, nurturing it, of course, to its competitive state now. And in the box opposite of me in the lower left-hand corner is Ryan Liu. He is the Valorant team manager for 2020, 2021. And gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this and for dropping some info on this new video game and this new endeavor, Valorant. I want to first, as I usually do, change my background here. I know Sal beat me to it this time, but I have a Valorant one here of my own. I think that's Valorant, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. I'm learning little by little. But Alberto, let me start with you because right away over the summer, obviously with COVID-19 and such, we learned about the birth of esports and it becoming a reality. And no sooner did we engage in esports, then a new game comes out, Valorant. We pick it up right away. It gets to be offered right away. So, what's it like just being in on the ground floor with an endeavor like this?
Yeah, last week we talked about Overwatch, and that game's been around for quite some time. Valorant is a game that just came out of its beta state in June, and as early as about a month ago, the ECC approached all of the esports teams and asked if there was a team for Valorant that we had available. So the team that we've put together has been in about a month span with the season starting on September 16th. So it was really quick, really fast, and we have a lot of good players already on our team, and we're always looking to improve. But right now, we already had a scrimmage as well against St. Joseph's College, which we won 2-0. So I'm feeling pretty confident about our team this year. And, like I said, with being just really quick to put it together, I think that we've done a really good job.
Yeah, and Sal, let me throw it over to you because obviously the Gamers Club kind of originated within Intramurals, and you saw it firsthand go from being something where there was a small handful of kids who were interested. Now the Gamers Club is over 100 deep, and you got an official esports roster that's about 25, 30 kids specializing in these three games for now, and of course the adoption of Rocket League coming up in the spring. Tell me about how proud you are of the success so far of this program.
Well, you just hit on the nail there. I mean, 100 deep already in only like a little less than 2 years that we've been in, both casual and competitive gamers. And like I said in Overwatch, they're all very supportive of each other. And now we have Valorant that's brand new. We put it out there if anybody wants to compete. And now we got a bunch of good competitors, and Ryan being one of them with us today. And I think he's going to lead us to some great things this year, and as well as all the other captains and managers and staff we have really kind of hitting us hard.
Excellent. And, that brings us to Ryan. And, Ryan, you're the expert here on this screen when it comes to Valorant. I know the game hasn't been around very long. Can you give a little bit of insight into the origins of Valorant and when it was actually released?
So Valorant, like League of Legends, was developed by Riot Games. Like Alberto said before, it originally started at beta around April 7th, and beta lasted until end of June, early August. That's when the game was officially released to live servers. It's a 5v5 tactical shooter with, I think at the moment, if I remember off the top of my head, there's 12 current agents available. So we have like different roles. 4 specifically, there are classes that agents like fit into. So there's like duelist, initiator, controller, and sentinels. So like in Sal's screen, so like what in his background there's Jet and Phoenix. So those would be those agents would be like your entry fraggers, your duelists. The first team to get 13 rounds wins.
Right, and that's the limited that I read about it was the whole 13 rounds. Now, has that always been there since the beta? Has that always been a constant of how to win, essentially winning 13 points?
Yeah, essentially, but like as the beta progressed and as we get more patch notes, they've added in like overtime, so like sudden deaths and everything. So like let's say you're in a game where it's like the score is 12 versus 12, then the team to win the next 2 rounds will win the entire match.
I see. I see. So take me from the very beginning of as soon as you enter a game. So you have your team of 5.
hmm
At the start screen, do you select which agent you want? Is it given to you at random? Is there a sort of a mindset into how people assemble their teams?
Um, when it comes to assembling a team, there's definitely no randomness to it. I personally like want everyone on what they're comfortable with. So if you're comfortable with playing like duelist, or like entry fragger or controller or initiator, then you have agents like who play those roles and you can pick from there.
Mm.
So it's a 5v5. Um, Usually it's 2 entries, like one controller, and the other 2 can be like optional. So like for example, Sage, a character in the game, she's considered a sentinel, but she also has a heal.
Mm.
Like as each patch comes, metas change. Like just recently, we like to call it that the Sage meta died because of her nerfs, and like nowadays, no one really plays Sage.
I see.
So it's like really, it differs from patch to patch because of like buffs and nerfs.
Yeah, so Alberto, this is kind of a game where, things are changing on the fly, it seems. It's obviously hasn't been finalized as far as what the end game is going to look like. So, what's it like kind of, having an organized roster, knowing that the game is going to change, from time to time with the patches?
Yeah, I mean, with every game that goes on live servers, every first-person shooter that you play has patches, and there are always changes to metas, as you talked about, which is basically the kind of standard for the game in that particular season. And they usually occur at the end of a season, and then when the new season comes out, they release changes based on current gameplay. So it definitely goes a lot into strategy and to adapting the team, because if there's a character that you're used to playing and then that character becomes not unplayable but becomes a less desired character to have on your team because they're just not as useful anymore, then you have to kind of re-strategize your team and figure out kind of where you need to be.
Mm. With these patches, have entirely new agents come out during these patches and updates?
Oh, is that question to me or
Yeah,
Alberto?
sure, Ryan, go ahead.
Um, at the moment, I don't think there's like a set week on like when agents come out. Some patches will have agents, some wouldn't. Like just recently, we got a new agent, Killjoy. I think that was like, if I remember correctly, like 3 weeks ago,
Mm.
and like she already got hit with a nerf.
And what is
So
that? What is that word? I hear that word a lot of nerf.
So
What is
the
that?
word nerf means basically to kind of diminish their talent or their abilities.
Mm.
Like we have the terms buff and nerf. A buff is like a addition that's warranted and that's accepted, and then a nerf is something that it just makes the player less desirable.
I see.
So one of the things with the rules for ECC is that these patches and these buffs and or these nerfs, if they're not released into competitive play, the ECC doesn't adopt it. So what happens is they usually put these patches into quick play modes, which is basically just partying up and playing. And then once they're adopted into the competitive aspect of the game, that's when the ECC will adopt it. So there may be patches that are out right now that may not have been adopted by the ECC yet. So the gameplay that you see maybe perhaps on Twitch, or you see somebody playing a quick play game, that patch may not be the same when you see us playing competitively in the ECC.
I got you.
Can I just
So,
say,
yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, what I like about this game a lot more than probably all the other games is that it's very tactical and strategy, just like any other in-person sport. And you have an offensive team, you have a defensive team.
Mhm.
It sounds like what he was talking about the patches and agents. You have different positions too. Whether it's a shooting guard needs to be in the right spot, or a picture for that right game moment. That important game for that day. It sounds very much like an in-person sport. Just you have to go out there like any other game, and it's that's a first person or third person.
First person.
First person shooter game.
Yeah. So, because of the changing characters and the nerfs and because the game is so new, Ryan, is it more advantageous for players like yourself to be well versed in a lot of different characters as opposed to like one specialty one?
In a game like Valorant, it's definitely like nice, I say, to have like knowledge on all of the characters. But I think it's better off if you like, I wouldn't say stick to one character, but like stick to one class.
I see.
So like, let's say you're playing duelist a lot, like I suggest you like stick to that class, and that class would have like different agents, and you could try out different duelists and different play styles, other than like completely switching your play style. Because like take for example entry fraggers, which are duelists, and like let's say sentinels, you're not going to be like on the front fragging or like getting kills. You're like expected to play back, use your utilities to like support your duelists to like go in and get the site.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always stress when I talk to either this team or Overwatch is it's important to, like he said, kind of stick to your role, but it's also important to learn other characters, because when you do learn other characters, you get to learn their abilities. So like, for example, if I see, if they see the opposing team using a character, like let's say Sage, for example, and they've used one of their utilities and they have two of them, they can expect that they could expect to know when that cooldown timer is for them to use it again.
Mhm.
So knowing those cooldown timers, knowing how the other characters work and play can help them strategize and help them kind of defeat the other team, because they know what to expect from those characters.
Gotcha. So definitely, as far as characters are concerned, it makes a lot of sense. And now we got to that stage where you select your character, you're getting ready. How do you actually win? I know it's the 13 rounds, but what's the goal? Is it the same goal every time? Is it different modes of play? Talk about your typical game and how you score points, how you win rounds.
So at the moment, there's only one game mode, which is, we just call it quick play, or like, I guess if you were to come from like a, let's say, CSGO perspective or background, they would call like plant the bomb. So there's two teams. You either start on attack or defense first. And if you're starting on attack, your objective is to plant the spike, which is in Valorant known as the bomb. So you plant the spike, and you either kill off the other players on the enemy team, or you wait for the spike to go off and you get that round. And if you're defending, you want to prevent them from getting onto the site. You want to defuse the spike if they do manage to get the plant down.
Okay. And as far as eliminating the enemy, is it a respawn type game, or is it once your character is dead, he's eliminated?
So it's first to 13 rounds, and once your character is killed, or when you get killed by the other player, you're done for that round.
For that
and
round.
you'll respawn the next round. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So essentially, if the four of us are on a team with someone else and we eliminate the other team's 5 players before, as long as one of us stays alive, we've won that round, correct? Or
That's, I think it's different, because like let's say you're on attack, right, and it's 5v5.
Mhm.
The attacker team can either like kill off the entire enemy team and win the round that way, or they can plant the spike and just like play. Like there's this terminology called play time,
Mhm.
and the attackers can just play the time as the bomb ticks down, and they could win like that without
Gotcha.
having to completely kill the enemy team. And for defense, it's the same. You either completely kill off the attackers or you defuse the spike.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds a little bit more rudimentary than Overwatch in terms of like what your goal is. So if we're the attacking team, if CSI is attacking first, right?
Mm.
We have a bomb. We have to put it somewhere and make sure no one touches it before it goes off, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, got it. And obviously vice versa. So when we play another team, Alberto, maybe you can answer this from a conference perspective, ECC rules. When we play another team, I'm assuming that we're the attacking team first, then we defend, attack, defend. Is that how it works?
No, so the way it works is, I believe after 12 rounds, so usually one team does the same objective for the first 12 rounds. So
Gotcha.
if you're an attacker on round one, you play all the way to round 12, and then you switch sides at round 13.
Okay,
So that's how it works on Valorant. You won't see alternating attacking and defense.
I see.
And that gives them time to set up strategy as they're attacking. There's 3 points that you can attack, A, B, and C, I believe. So you're able to kind of see where they're playing, and then as the rounds go on in the early going, you can see where to kind of strategize where to plant your bomb.
Just to bounce off what Alberto said. So if you're attacking or defending, you usually defend to the first 12 rounds and then you switch sides. But when it's like sudden death or when it's tied 12 to 12, then that's the time you'll attack and then you'll switch to defense. So that's the only time where like you don't play out the rounds and you switch after every round or after every game you finish.
And is that because, Ryan, you have to win by 2? So if
You have
it's
to win by
12,
2.
You have to win 14-12 at that point. Okay.
Yep.
All right, that makes sense for sure. So as far as sticking with the ECC, Alberto, so every week we have another opponent. I know that some of the schools that play Valorant are different than the ones that play Overwatch. Do you have a list of who is in the league and who we would be playing in the typical season? Like, is it the same as Overwatch with how many weeks in a row?
Most of them are the same. Yes, you have your Southern New Hampshires, you have your NYT, you have your Malloy. But there are a couple schools that are different. But not many. There are just a few. I believe the only school that may be different is Farmingdale State. I'm not sure if they have an Overwatch team. They just have a Valorant team. But most of the teams are the same, and I believe St. Joseph's College as well.
Yeah, St. Joe's was the one that you had mentioned that the scrimmage, and you guys won that scrimmage, right? What was the final of that one?
It was 2-0. We won both games. We won the first game 13 rounds to 5, and then we won the second game 13 rounds to 11.
Gotcha. So is that how the ECC will play? So you'll play a game to 13, and that gives you 1 point, and then you have to win 2 points. Is that like 2 out of 3?
Correct. Yes, it'll be the best 2 out of 3. The first to 13 rounds twice wins.
Great.
Wins the game.
Cool. So about how long does a typical match take from the time you start till there's an actual declared winner as far as scoring to 13?
A typical match usually lasts from it could last the earliest time a match could end could be 25, 28 minutes. And the longest time it could take is 40 minutes. So it's around that mark, 25 to 40 minutes is typically how long a game is.
Okay. And when we say game, we're talking about a full point,
a full point where first to 13. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So basically a best of 3, if it goes down to the full 3 points, you're talking about almost 2 hours worth of gameplay, or maybe even more.
Yeah,
right?
essentially.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of sets the stage. Now, as far as the maps, how many maps are there? How many different kind of locations does a typical Valorant player need to kind of know in order to be well versed in the game?
At the moment, there are 4 maps. So we have Ascend, Split, Bind, and Haven. Haven is the only map where there's 3 sites that the attackers can go to. And the other 3, so Bind, Ascend, Split, those are the maps that only have 2 sites.
Gotcha. So as far as strategy, I mean, it sounds very simple, but I'm sure when you're playing, it's extremely complicated with how to defend and how to attack. What are some of the rudimentary strategies that a typical esports team needs to have in order to be successful in a game like this?
I think for a game like Valorant, teamwork is definitely really, really important. And I think after teamwork is individual skills. The reason I say that is because Valorant is a game where, depending on the role you're assigned or depending on the situation of the game, you need to be able to clutch. You need to be able to get kills. Because if you're on attacking and you can't get any kills or you can't get the first kill of the round, then it's going to be really hard to push into the site. So generally speaking, if you get let's say a kill at the very beginning of the round, then that's really good because you have the numbers advantage already.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, Ryan.
Yeah,
It's okay.
of course.
So if you're in the attacking team, right?
Mm.
How do you guys decide to, let's say, attack the other team or, and essentially defend that spike? You know, like what makes you decide that?
So we'll take I'm gonna take a map for example. So I'm gonna take Bind for example. So there are like certain agents who will excel in different maps. So like let's for example, before Sage was completely nerfed, she was really good on Bind because of one of her utilities. So like let's say you were defending on Bind, like Sage would be essentially always be picked, and you would send her to A site, and you would send like other agents to the same site. So like let's say I pick Sage, I go A. I would have one more agent with me on A site, and generally speaking, it really varies from team to team. But you can put like 2 on A or 3 on B or like vice versa. And depending on whatever the attackers do, you play retake.
Gotcha.
And Alberto, you had a thought. I saw. Did you want
Yeah,
to?
no, I was just gonna kind of echo what now after I heard Ryan speak. Um, I think it's a very slow pace. I think it's a lot easier to follow for the viewer. Because again, and one thing that we won't be able to do for Valorant is there will be no overhead view. We're not allowed to stream via overhead view on Valorant, so you'll only have the point of view of the player. So you'll be able to see things like I said, like peeking, and you'll be able to see how they rotate around the map, just so that they can get the advantage on the opposing team.
Gotcha. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think I read somewhere that after each round in Valorant, you can make your character better or purchase more things. So like the longer
Yes.
the game goes, the more equipped your agent can be. Is that true?
It's not essentially getting better. It's like you said, you're better off equipped.
Mhm.
So as the game goes on, you'll get better armor. You'll get more utility usage. You'll
Gotcha.
get better weapons to duel with.
Okay. And does it matter how you did the round before? Like, does it make a difference if you
Uh,
earn points that way?
yes. There's this economy system in Valorant where the first ever round where you doesn't matter if you're attack on defense, the first round everyone starts with 800 credits, and you can, as like a player, it's up to your personal preference. Like, what do you want to buy? Do you want to buy like a better pistol with abilities, or do you want to stay with the regular pistol they give you, but you get armor and some abilities?
Mhm.
That really comes down to like the player and the agent, because some agents would prefer to get like less one of the pistols that's really common in pistol round is the ghosts. Like some agents would prefer ghosts over armor, and other agents would prefer abilities and armor over the ghosts.
All right, cool. It looks like we've kind of learned a lot more about the game. For those people who are going to be watching it for the first time, like myself, I've watched a little bit of YouTube videos just to try to see what it's all about. But for someone who's watching team play for the first time, what should I be looking out for? What are some of the visual markers that will tell me who's doing well, what kind of strategies are being used? Is there anything that I should be looking for when I watch this for the first time?
I would say for the first time, if as a viewer, for the first time ever, it'll definitely be confusing because you don't know what agent is doing what. You don't know whose ability is whose. But I think if you're viewing for the first time, you should definitely pay attention to like how the attackers are attacking a site, how the defenders are defending a site, and it's like when is the right time to rotate off, when's the right time to like rotate back into the site. It For Valorant, it's definitely like very methodical. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Sorry.
Methodical. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, methodical. Yep. In the game, since there's only 2 minutes, you're always constantly like making decisions. It's There are strategies. You could stick to a strategy, but once like if it doesn't work, or like if the enemy are doing like a good job preventing you from executing that strategy, you have to think of something different. I say like you can't just expect to win a round with just one pixelated strategy. You always have to like change something, or something will always be changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, for the player that's viewing and okay, I want to know if CSI is doing well. I want to know if we're not doing well. The top of the screen, similar to Overwatch, will have, five characters and five characters on each side, and you can see when they're eliminated. So if you're looking at CSI and you see we have four players and the other team has one, we're doing pretty well that round. Then most likely we'll end up winning that round. And then in the middle, you'll have the score. It'll be 5-1, 7-1, or whatever the score is, and you'll be able to see, how the team is doing. So if we're expecting most of the games to be competitive, but there may be some where we just hopefully have a huge advantage and we're up early, and you'll be able to see that on the scoreboard that's displayed in the middle.
Cool.
And when I watched it, it was pretty simple compared to Overwatch, honestly. I got it kind of right away watching Valorant. I kind of saw what Alberto was talking about on the top of the screen. It's kind of easy to see the score and kind of see what's going on once you get used to the game. Overwatch, like you said, it's a lot more hectic than Valorant. It's a little slow paced, so it's a little easy to understand. It was actually kind of fun watching.
Yeah, I'm actually going to, I think I'm going to appreciate Valorant a little bit more, because I was telling James Medina, when I was watching Overwatch, I got a little sick after 10 or 15 minutes. Because I guess, especially when you're not the one controlling the guy and you have to follow where he's going and you're not on that track, it does play with your head a little bit. So I think I'm going to like Valorant a little bit more. Ryan, you're in a very unique position, because not only are you playing and are you handling an agent, but you're also kind of the team captain, the team manager, the kind of coach that gets them through it. So what are some of the, what does that role mean to you, as far as not only do I have to play well and my team is counting on me to be the quote unquote best player, but I also have to guide my team and help make them better too. So how do you kind of approach that gameplay?
So first of all, for me being team captain is definitely something that will put some pressure. Definitely, because for me personally, I don't want to let my team down. So I would spend more hours, playing Valorant, or just practicing my aim, improving my aim, just staying consistent. So if a time ever comes where it is on me to win that round, then I should be confident enough in my skill to clutch it up for us. As for helping others improve, we have a lot of new members. I always tell them if they have questions or any ideas, I'm always down to help them. I'm always down to give them my feedback on what I would do, and I would just give them general especially for those new players or those fairly beginners. I would tell them for example, what it takes to win your gunfights. So crosshair placement is a really important thing, and just a lot of basics I would remind players, so that we can have those small advantages.
And Alberto, similar to Overwatch, obviously there's a lot of communication that's going on, between the players. You've obviously have played both games. You've dabbled in both. What are some of the differences with regards to the lingo and the communication? Is it, like you had mentioned with Overwatch, that everybody needs to be talking almost at the same time, talking about positioning and where they are on the map and where attacks are coming from? Is it very similar in Valorant as well?
Yeah, in any first-person shooter that you play, when it's a team-based game, you want to communication is at least 50% of the battle. From everything from knowing map placement, from everything, like I said, knowing character cooldowns and things like that, and then being able to communicate to your team. For example, if you've been shot down, you need to communicate where that team is and how many people are there, so that if somebody's trying to avenge you, they're not running into a 1v3 situation. So it's important to communicate where you are. It's important to communicate who's there with you as the opponent. And then, like I said, it's also, communicating where you're using your utility. Because one thing that you can do in Valorant is you can use some of your utility all around the map. A lot of other games, you have to be in the field of view to use your abilities. But in Valorant, you could smoke, for example, the other side of the map if you want to, by going in the map and selecting it. So it's important, where if you mention a certain place on the map where you're saying, okay, I'm going to smoke heaven, you can do that from anywhere on the map, and you're letting everybody know what you're doing so that they can move accordingly. So communication is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely sounds it. And, as far as, one of the things that makes this game very unique in a good way and a bad way is that it's so new that you don't really know who your opponents are. And that's a good thing because nobody knows who CSI is, nobody knows how they play and what they like to do. But as far as how you would judge your own team right now, I think that you've played so many hours of Valorant by this point, Ryan, that you kind of know how good you guys are and how good you guys can be as a team. Can you give me an honest assessment of where you think the team is right now as far as, your competitive level and how good you feel you guys can be right away?
When it comes to our like ranks, our personal ranks, we're definitely pretty high. I don't know how much more we'll improve, but I'm pretty confident. Like if the more we play, the better we'll get as a team, not just individually. When it comes to the ECC, just like Alberto said at the beginning of the interview, I'm fairly confident in our team right now. And obviously there are issues like we need to work with. I think our biggest issue right now is definitely communicating. But I'm fairly certain if like we all step it up and we all like do what we're supposed to do, I'm pretty confident we can make playoffs.
Awesome. That's great. And obviously, Alberto, we mentioned this with Overwatch, but I'm sure Valorant's the same way. Top 4 make the playoffs.
Correct.
Very cool. So, Ryan, for you and obviously for both Sal and Alberto as well, because they oversee the entire esports community and of course the Gamers Club. If I want to get involved with Valorant, if I want to start picking up the game on PC and start playing, what are some of the tips you can give me to become a better player, to be good enough so that I can hang with you guys and start to play at your level? What are some of the tips that you would give some of the younger players?
Honestly, there's really no shortcut to like a game like Valorant or just any game in general. You have to put in the hours. You have to, like, a lot of people spend like hours every day, like 8+ hours or like even longer, just practicing their aim, like doing stuff like aim labs or aim training, or like just playing Valorant consistently every day. Like some players would like even have some wrist pains and they still go on because they're like that dedicated on improving. There's definitely no shortcuts. If you want to get better at Valorant or just any other game, you have to put in the hours.
Gotcha. How many hours in a typical day in a week do you put into the game?
If like let's say I get all my work done, if I had no work to do, I would at least play like 6 to 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Even without work, like let's say I have schoolwork, I get them out of the way, or if I do have schoolwork or I do have class next day, I still try to at least get like 4 hours in.
Wow.
A day playing.
Yeah, no, we talked about this with Overwatch with the whole stamina and trying to stay fresh and trying to stay, alert enough to play competitively. Do you feel as the hours go by, Ryan, that you get less sharp or more sharp?
Yeah, playing for that long, no doubt about it. At one point you're definitely gonna get drained. There were some days where like I take like a day or 2 days off because like I just want to relax,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But like the next day I will get back into it. I think resting and doing exercises, especially for like I guess quote unquote gamers like us, our fingers are our like basically instruments and we need to take proper care of them. That's like the same thing goes with like mental health, right? It's like you need to get enough sleep. You have to probably take care of yourself so you're like in a best condition to practice for long hours. But for sure it's definitely mentally draining. There are some days where I feel like the more I play, the less sharp I get. But there are other days where I feel like I'm just in like top form shape and I'm doing really well.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad you mentioned that. And I hope that the people watching this can really get an appreciation of like the dedication it takes and how you guys do have to think about your bodies and your mental health because, doing this, especially at a competitive level, it is not easy. And it definitely is to be respected, So I respect it, and I can't wait to watch you guys play. So Alberto and Sal, I got kind of Ryan's expectations for the season. He hopes that the team could be competitive right away, score some wins, maybe make playoffs. Who knows? Maybe even bring home a trophy. As far as you guys being the overseers of esports entirely, what are your honest expectations for the season? What has to happen this year to let you guys finish the season happy about what the team was able to accomplish?
Well, I think we're going to be very competitive. We have some very high skilled individual players, and we're expecting them to by the end of the season gel really well with each other. They practice very often. They even practice, during non-scheduled practice times where they're always. I look in the Discord server and I always see somebody asking somebody else to play because they just want to get more familiar with each other. So I think that that's very important. And our schedule. I think that it starts off tough. We play against NYIT our first game, and they're usually pretty good in every esports game that they play. They're usually in the finals or the semifinals of everything, so I'm expecting some good things from them. But I think the middle and the end of our schedule could be very promising, especially if we gel well. And with only 8 games, I could see us with maybe 4 or 5 wins getting into the playoffs at least.
Yeah, and just to bounce off of what Alberto said, I feel the same. Our expectations are, I mean, we're just happy to have a team and one that's very good in terms of individual ranks to start off right away. That's just going to help us gel throughout starting into the season early. And then at the end of the season, hopefully we'll have some wins in our belt, being top 4. And if we get to the playoffs, I think we can make some noise.
Awesome. Awesome. So just to finish up, my final questions for Ryan. And, Ryan, a lot of normal sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, people know of those sports and they know what to expect going in. But for the people who are going to be watching you guys play Valorant, you're either going to have people who know the game in and out and are there to appreciate the way you guys can play. And then there are going to be some that are just curious and are curious to see and learn what this game is about and what the esports platform is all about. What do you enjoy about Valorant? What is it about Valorant that makes it your game, your go-to? What makes it so enjoyable for you that the people who don't know are going to find out once they start watching it?
I think esports or gaming in general, a lot of people, the enjoyment that they get off, myself included, it's all about the competition. We just want to be the best. I think that's like the main goal. It's like we form a team. Okay, so let's do our best to become the best for the team, right? And then like, what's the next step? Okay, so the next step is entering a tournament. So for example, the ECC, after entering, obviously, like we want to be the best there, right? And that means like winning playoffs or like just winning in general. Definitely competition is something that drives me, and I can say a lot of like gamers as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, guys, I didn't know anything about Valorant coming into this, and I feel like I know a little bit more. And I can't wait to watch you guys play. CSI has its debut on September 23rd against NYIT, as Alberto said. We'll have the set game times for that a little bit later. Right now, they're scheduled for 7. We may be working those a little bit later in the evening as well. But either way, we'll carry them on CSI Sportsnet. You'll be able to tune into CSI Esports Twitch account as well to check out some of their videos. But otherwise, really looking forward to it, guys. Thank you for dropping a lot of knowledge on me, and I look forward to watching you guys play.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ryan.
Thanks, guys. This has been the Inside Esports Zoom special. Be sure to tune in from time to time for more of these episodes as we bring you the very best of CSI Dolphins athletics. Thanks, everybody.